Hello everyone, welcome to the Concern Podcast, where we unpack political, social, economic, and cultural stories shaping our world. I am Emmanuel Taban. Now, last week, I think on Friday, it was an International Radio Day, which was declared by UNESCO, which is a day set to commemorate the importance of radio in the world. I mean, how important radios are in informing citizens and making an informal community and all this. And on that day, there was a very sudden statement issued by the Deputy Minister of Information, Communication, Technology and Postal Services. That is David Yau Yau, Honourable David Yau Yau. During the commemoration of the International Radio Day, the Deputy Minister stressed something that was encouraging, but also a warning at the same time, especially to media houses and journalists operating in South Sudan. And in his statement, if I'm to paraphrase what he said, he stressed that journalists should always stick to what the government tells them, and that the government always have a one-way traffic where if they say this, and that is what the journalists or the media houses must do, they have to adopt the language of the government in his own words. These are the words that he said, that the journalists have to adopt the language of the government and that they should stop criticizing the government. That is a Minister of Information, the Deputy Minister of Information, Communication, Technologies and Postal Services. I mean, in that way, he is trying to tell journalists that if you are not going to do your work in the interest of the government, you are going to be an enemy of the government. And that makes me ask so many questions about the role of the media. What is the role of the media in a democracy? Why do we have media houses? Why do we have journalists operating in a country? Is the role of a media or a journalist to just go into bed with the government and start throwing flowers and singing praises to the government even when they know that the government is doing terribly bad? Is that the role of the media? What is the role of the media exactly in a democracy? Is what the Deputy Minister said, is it in line with the role of the media? Is it necessary that the journalists or the media houses have to give praises to the government and have to stick into what the government tells them, even when they see that things are not going right? Isn't that dictatorship? Now, when we look at the role of the media, in most cases, the media is always considered as the fourth estate. The fourth estate that is actually seen as the fourth organ of a government. Of course, most of us are familiar with all the four organs of government. We know that in government, we do have the executive, which comprises of the president, the deputy president, and all the cabinet ministers. That is the executive form of the government. We do have the legislatures, which is the representation of the people, members of parliament, and in the other places we have a bicameral parliament, which has the Senate and the National Assembly. In other words, we just have like one assembly. And also we do have the judiciary, which is another organ of government, which its role is to interpret the laws of a country where doubts arises. And the fourth estate or the fourth organ of the government in most democracies is seen as the media. And the role of the media here is to play in the middle of all these organs. Try to, just put into checks what these people do. That is the major role of the media. The major role of the media is to act as a watchdog, is to hold leadership to account, to look into issues of corruption, to look into issues of power abuse. So that is the role of a media. So if we have media stations, if we have media houses, if we have journalists whose role is only to speak good about the government, even when they see that things are not going right, then why should we have media houses? Why do we have journalists? And if you're a journalist who thinks that your role is only to go and write good things about the government, then you better resign. That's not your role. Because if journalists, if media houses can put leaders to account, can expose the bad happenings within the system, issues to do with corruption, issues to do with power abuse, if these media houses and journalists are not able to play their role, then there is no need for media houses to exist in any country. That is completely their role. Besides informing citizens and creating debates and just acting as a link between the people and the government, the major role of a media house is to act as a watchdog and hold leaders accountable. So the deputy prime minister, the deputy minister coming out and saying that if you're a journalist, you have to adopt the language of the government or you become an enemy of the government, then that is completely a violation of the freedom of the press. Because even our constitution gives the right of freedom of the press. We do have the liberties that are enshrined in the constitution, and it's almost in every country's constitution that there should be freedom of speech, freedom of expression by citizens, but there should always be freedom of press, and that the media houses have the right to go and do things in the most. But also that's the reason why we do have regulatory bodies. We do have some government institutions that actually make sure that these individual journalists or media houses do not go beyond their rights. So I feel it is not up to the deputy minister to come out and dictate on what a journalist should do. We do have laws. We do have the South Sudan Media Authority that actually regulates how these media houses and journalists should operate. So if everyone comes out and say, oh, if you're a journalist or media house, you have to play into the tune of the government, then it makes these media houses and journalists less media houses and journalists. They become puppets, they become rubber stamps, they become praise and worship, or they become choir to the government, and they forget their role. The role of a media is to hold leadership accountable. That is the prime role of a journalist and the prime role of a media house. So I feel what the deputy minister said was actually an intimidation, was unfortunate, and he shouldn't have aired it out. Because what he said, if he really meant it, it's a violation against the freedom of press. It is an intimidation that is targeted to the journalists, and it's going to compromise their job. They are not going to do their job in the way how it should be done. They will do it out of fear, because the moment they know they do things that threatens the government, that makes the government uncomfortable, their lives are as well going to be threatened. And I feel that is not a word that should have come from a minister of information. So that is what I have about these issues, guys. Thank you so much. Write down in the comment section what you think about the statement issued by the Deputy Minister of Information, Communication and Postal Services, that is Honorable David Yau Yau. Thank you so much. Until next time, I'm Emmanuel Taban, and this is the Concerned Podcast. Before we close today's episode, here's a quick message from our sponsor, Wani.co. If you've been planning to build a website, but the cost has been holding you back, Wani.co makes it affordable and stress-free this time around. Whether you are an individual, a non-profit organization, or a business, Wani.co designs professional websites starting from as cheap as $250. Individuals can actually launch with a starter website of up to 7 pages and a free email, or choose an advanced option with unlimited pages, a professional portfolio, and branding support. For non-profit organizations, they can select flexible packages from basic websites to premium solutions with e-commerce features and ongoing support. And for business companies, oneit.co delivers company-ready website with hosting, staff training, and multi-link options and online stores. And the best part of it is actually that you can build your dream website within your budget. oneit.co is an affordable, accessible, and professional partner. And to get started, you can actually visit oneit.co or email them at info@oneit.co, or you can get in touch with them through their WhatsApp number at +1 226 504 3322. oneit.co, proudly affiliated with Jobs to Apply. And if you're wondering of what I'm talking about, here are some samples of website created by oneit.co. You can see them right here.